The events that began last February that commemorate and celebrate the 250th anniversary of the start of the American Revolution, along with many other exciting events across the state, are sponsored by the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism. They have been an incredible support for us this year and last year. It's part of the Mass 250 campaign. We are very grateful to be one of the communities chosen for the second year in a row to tell our revolutionary story. So the grant that sponsors this event, as I mentioned, is a partnership with Cushing House Museum, Lowell's Boat Shop, Newburyport, Chamber of Commerce, the North of Boston Convention and Visitors Bureau, Firehouse Center, Theater in the Open, all sorts of other community partners. So just a wonderful community-wide event.
In case you've never been here before, this is the National Archives at Kew. You can see it's quite a big building. This is half of it. It has two very large reading rooms for members of the public, and down in the basement, hidden away, it has another reading room for members of staff, and that is where we do our cataloguing. And we have been working on the prize papers now for about 12 years. The prize papers are all papers taken from captured enemy ships or neutral ships which are suspected of carrying enemy cargoes, things like that. And all the papers are taken off the ship in order to be shown to a court to prove this status. If it turned out that the ship was a neutral ship, then the papers are given back. The prize papers are actually being catalogued and digitised by something called the Prize Papers Project, which the National Archives is part of, and you can see some of the other contributors here. The main partners are the University of Oldenburg and the National Archives, but there's also various other people who are providing the funding, including the German Academies of Science and Humanities, the Göttingen Academy of Science and Humanities, and various other people. And we should also, at this point, thank an American institution, the William Nelson Cromwell Foundation, who've been providing funding for an extra catalogue on the American War of Independence. These pictures actually come from the Prize Papers collection. These are the people who are working at Kew and in Oldenburg. So that's me in that green jumper. This is my colleague Randolph, who works on very large collections of Dutch and French letters. This is Severine, who's just joined us to help with French letters. These are our two photographers, Mustafa and Maria. And we're waiting for a new conservator because everything has to just go through a conservator before it's digitised. In Oldenburg, but currently here, as you can see, just outside Tower Bridge in London, is Lewin. And then below Lewin is Frank, and they are working on the digital side of the project. We have volunteers like Ali, who I think is with you today, who is working with Lewin on digital images, and I think she's going to have a brief word at the end of my presentation. Okay, so the wars of 1776 to 1784, which are not your dates, are our dates. They cover the American War, but also the French, Spanish, and Dutch wars, which we continued perhaps after we'd settled with you. We have papers for 3,600 ships, half from the High Court of Admiralty in London and half from the New York Vice Admiralty Court. The reason we have these New York records is that in 1783, when we evacuated New York, we took the records with us because some of them were still live. They're court cases and some cases were still active. So what we're currently working on is 1,800 ships in, from, or about America. Some of these are French or Spanish ships involved in American trade, but just over 1,300 are actually American ships. Of these 1,800 ships, most come from the New York court, so they are coastal trade up and down the American seaboard, or they are ships which are coming into the American seaboard or trying to leave, and obviously a lot of them got captured by blockades. But there's also 360 ships, American ships, which were captured on the eastern Atlantic, and they were handled by the High Court of Admiralty in London, which is near St Paul's Cathedral. Okay, just talking about the cataloguing, I'm going to read you some of the descriptions as we go through because it's much easier for me to read them, I think, than for you to read them on screen, and I want to show you the kind of work that we're doing. So stage one, in opening up the prize papers, we work with volunteers. We've currently got about 10 volunteers, And they spent about 3 years, starting quite early, writing capture histories for all the 3,600 ships. They looked at the depositions of the crew and of the prize master. The prize master is a person who's actually been given the responsibility of bringing the prize ship into port. So, for example, here's one for the British New York Vice Admiralty Court, which was in Wall Street in New York. The captured ship Harrison, Commander James Johnson. It's an American privateer. It's a ship, which is a kind of vessel, obviously, 240 tons, 20 guns, 97 men. So it's a really quite a big vessel. It's bound from Newburyport on a cruise, taken on the 22nd of May 1780 off Sandy Hook by HMS Galatea in the presence of HMS Delight and brought into New York. Now, this is all on our online catalogue Discovery, and in a moment I'm going to show you how to find them in case you want to actually have a look for yourself. But just for Michael, who was talking about this earlier, I was having a look while he was talking, and we have 632 brigs, 470 schooners, 416 sloops, 43 of them are called Polly and 54 of them are called Sally. So actually the type of the vessel is really valuable to try and work out which one is which. These descriptions are now on our online catalogue, and if you want to look, you can go to the nationalarchives.gov.uk and look for the catalogue, and then you can search by keywords. You can put dates in, and you have to change all archives here to the National Archives only, and then you can end up with hits like this. So searching for Newbury, I don't know if you can see this, but I've put quotation marks around HCA 32 just to restrict it.
We can see it.
Yeah, you can. Good. Okay, so we've got the Newbury of Newbury. We've got the Master John Allen. That's just a brief description here. To see the full description, you need to click on the link. So we've got 15 hits for Newbury. You can sort them by date if you want to. Over here, you can download them to Excel so that you've got a record of them. If you do that, you'll get a lot of extra columns, but most of them you can remove. So it's quite good that not merely can you see it in the catalogue, but you can actually create a data set out of it yourself if you want to. So I was thinking about privateers and merchant ships with commissions, and from our perspective, they both have the same legal authority, which is the commission from Congress. The privateers are the ones with large crews. The merchant ships are ones where they have a commission to defend themselves, so they have a small crew. And we found for Essex County and Portsmouth, New Hampshire, which we included because I think Bethany asked us to. These are the ships that we have papers of, which are defined as privateers or merchant ships with a commission. And you can see from this that there's not very many in 1776. The majority appear to be in 1782. What we know is that this is not all ships which were taken by the British at this point, because I think several of them probably went into the Vice Admiralty Court of Nova Scotia, and we don't have those records. And certainly for the earlier period, 1775, we have nothing. So I imagine any captures are going to be dealt with locally, either in Nova Scotia or possibly in the Caribbean. But in fact, the reason we only start in 1776 is because the Navy and privateers don't have any authority to proceed until January 1776, when the Prohibitory Act comes in and says that any American ship which is at sea and is not a loyalist can be treated as prize. It's not as though there's a declaration of war on our part which would make that obvious, as there is, say, with the French or the Spanish. So now we're on to stage 2 in opening up the prize papers. This happened a couple of years ago, maybe about 18 months ago, I suppose. Our volunteers started sorting and cataloguing the papers taken from each ship. So they do the court papers, which includes things like the depositions of the captured crew, the papers found on these American ships, American meaning French and Spanish trading with America as well. And those are described as ship's papers with the abbreviation SP. And also we have mail in transit, which can be either marked SP or MT, depending how big it is. We know that these papers were microfilms for the Library of Congress in the 1970s, and then they marked every single sheet of paper with a new number. We leave those on the pages, but we are actually cataloguing by document. So if the document has got 12 pages, it's still one document. We've done about 2/3 of these papers so far, and we send them off to the next stage for conservation and digitisation. But the detailed descriptions we're doing are very much more about home ports, owners, crews, cargoes, letter writers, and the captures. And this is the kind of thing that we're finding. So that we're taking them out, first of all, of these old brown files which were used when they were microfilmed for the Library of Congress. And they were originally kind of sewn together, and for microfilming, the sewing was snipped, and so often the papers get out of order. Quite often we find that papers from one ship are muddled up with another ship, and we don't know when that happened. So we look at everything very carefully. We compare the dates to make sure that something is not written after a potential capture, because then it would be in the wrong place. And I don't know if you can see, but we've got forms here that we fill out, quite large A3 forms, where they actually try and specify the types of document. So having showed you what we're doing, I just want to show you some results for Essex County. And what I'm particularly looking at is the relationship with Bilbao. There's so much to talk about here, but what I want to do is to just focus on one, because we have very many ships which are working with Bilbao. And the reason we do that is that there was a secret agreement with Bilbao in early 1777, when Arthur Lee, one of Congress's commissioners in France, had a secret meeting in Spain with a government minister and a member of a really big trading family in Bilbao called the Gardaquis family. And the idea here was that Spain offered a secret line of credit to the Americans so that they could provide warlike stores, and particularly things like blankets, tents, boots, uniforms, stuff for the army, as well as material that's naval stores. So there's a lot of ships going backwards and forwards between Essex County and Bilbao, and lots of other places in America and Bilbao as well. So here's the first link. We've got 6 ships to look at. The first one is the Friendship, which is a merchant ship taken in 1777. So it's the Friendship of Newburyport. The master's John Dixie. We can see what it's doing. It's gone from Newburyport down to Charleston and then across to Bordeaux, laden with rice and indigo. It's taken about 100 leagues from the Western Islands, that's the Azores, and brought into the River Thames. It includes a business letter from John Emery to somebody in Bordeaux. He says, having met with him while in France, he now sends a cargo of rice with instructions to remit any proceeds to Messrs. Gardaquis and Bilbao. And he names 7 captains who've arrived safely home from Bilbao and Bordeaux, despite the insurer's fears. So not a great deal for that ship, but some interesting stuff, and linking it to this really important trading route. But I don't know if this one is something that you know. Do you know the John Felt house in Salem?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, good. Well, this isn't John Felt, this is a Jonathan Felt, and as far as I can see, he's a cousin, maybe a poor cousin. The ship is called the Rambler of Salem. It's a merchant ship with a commission. So here we have, it's not very big, it's 60 tons, it's got 5 guns, 6 men. One of them was killed by a shot from the Capitol, so it's still a dangerous thing, even if you're actually really bound on trade instead of fighting. And again, this is one which is going to Metomkin, so it's obviously a place which lots of people go to, not just off in Boardman. And then it's going to direct to Bilbao, laden with tobacco. So this one was taken by an English privateer, the Hannah, and again brought into London. And this one has a lot of papers. Can you see that? It's a great big pile of papers.
Oh, yeah.
I think that because it's not a ship of war, because they're not actually intending to fight, he wasn't prepared to throw his papers overboard. He didn't have them ready to hand the way that perhaps a fighting privateer would have. So we're going to have a look at some of these papers, and you can see that now they're in the proper archival folder of this kind of like grey-blue stuff, and they will go off to be conserved before they're digitised. So what have we got here? We've got Felt's logbook, which is nicely kept, but we've also got the ship's register. So it tells you who the owners are. It gives details of the type of vessel. It says who the current captain is. And if it's a document which is kept going for some time, on the back it will have successive captains as they get replaced. This is almost identical to colonial documents because we have some of these which date back to, say, 1773, and all they do is effectively replace colony of or province of with state of. And this one we can see that the owners are George Dodge Jr., Joshua Dodge and Thomas Mason. We also have the crew list, which is really nice. So you can see at the top you've got Captain Felt, Jonathan Felt. We've got John Peters, the mate, and we've got Jack Dodge. Now, we know there's supposed to be 14 men in this crew list and only 6 men aboard when it was captured. So perhaps if somebody reads the log, we might find that they actually have taken a prize and sent some people off in the prize. Don't know, I haven't read the log, I'm afraid.
Amanda, I have to tell you, the historian from Salem is here, and her mouth is actually hanging open.
Oh, good.
You have definitely made her day. Am I right, Emily?
She's
about to get on a plane.
This is a great.
She'll be another weeper when she gets there, I think.
This is a great collection. This one. Here we know on this ship we've got Jonathan Felt, John Peters, and down at the bottom it's so dirty because it hasn't been conserved yet. It says Jack Dodge, and remember one of the owners is a George Dodge and a Joshua Dodge. So here we've got 2 letters which are written from John Peters, the mate, to his captain. And I don't know if you can see this, but they're written, he's quite a fluent writer, his spelling is a bit odd, but it's very much about kind of like what you do to prepare for the voyage. So I think you might find it quite interesting to see these. As you can see, although these were flattened for the microfilming, we've actually taken to refolding them. This is the 4th war that I've worked on, and the other ones had the latest letters still folded. And we felt that it's great to see them, to give them back to life again. So we tend to refold them, and then they're shot in the photography as letters with the envelope, with the address shown, and then they're photographed open too. So we have letters from John Peters, the mate, about the life of the ship. We also have a certificate from Joshua Dodge about Jack Dodge. And I don't know if you can read this, but it says, Salem, 10th July 1777. This may certify whom it may concern that Jack Dodge, the bearer hereof, who was formerly my servant, is now a free man and is at liberty to act for himself, and also that he is a married man and has 1 child. So this is clearly a black seaman who had originally been a servant. I don't know if that means a slave. Possibly it does, because it says is now a free man. So it looks as though he's been manumitted, and I don't know if anybody knows about this, but it does tie into some of the things that we heard about earlier.
You will be getting a call from Emily Murphy.
Good. Yeah. It makes me very sad to see this, because it's a piece of paper, and that he's now lost this piece of paper. And does his status change because this paper has been taken away from him?
Right.
You can see clearly on that one as well, at the top it says SP72. This is a large collection of papers. We also have other letters, and we have personal commissions from several people in Salem for Jonathan Felt to buy goods in Virginia to sell in Spain and then buy more goods. So we've got 2 women here, Eunice and Abigail Major of Salem, who want him to buy in Spain 44 yards of black silk and 96 yards each of the brown and grey, which seems an awful lot. So presumably they're selling it on. And there, pinned as it was in 1778, are their little samples of silk that they want more of.
Unreal.
Okay, the next ship. Just to show you proof that the Gardaquis family was really important, this ship is named the Gardaquis of Newburyport. It was a merchant ship built in 1765, re-registered and presumably renamed in 1778. I can't imagine it was called the Gardaquis in 1765. And these are some of the papers we get. So we get, here's another copy of the ship's register, a bill of health from Massachusetts, and a clearance bond, where effectively they have to pay quite a large sum of money to guarantee that they will not trade with the British. They will go to any port other than a British port. And as far as I can understand, there's an entire system in all the American ports where you had to show your clearance bond, you had to get certificates of entry to say that, the goods have been received in the port that they were sent from. And I don't know if these records still survive in bulk in America, but they clearly had a very, very strict system to make sure that people were not trading with the British. And here's some letters from that ship to the Messrs. Joseph Gardequy and Sons in Bilbao on the brigantine Gardequy, and it says the captain's name. So you often find this is what letters look like when they're closed, all different shapes and sizes, because people fold their own. They're not using pre-made envelopes at all. Okay, the fourth one, the North Star. This isn't a privateer, but it's definitely part of the war effort, not effort, as I've written there. This is quite interesting, I think. Master Francis Forson, I don't know if you know of him. It's called of Bilbao, but it's actually an American merchant ship. It's got 2 small swivel guns, which is not huge, 9 men, 3 passengers. It's owned by John Emery, who has moved from Newburyport and now lives in Bilbao. And it's laden with warlike stores on the risk and account of the American Congress, namely the rigging and sails for a 74-gun ship being built in America, and 340 bales of sailcloth, blankets, shoes, stockings, and linen for shirts, consigned by Joseph Gardequy and Sons. Does anybody know what this 74-gun ship being built in America is? I'd love to know. Okay, number 5, an actual privateer, a real fighting privateer, the Essex of Newburyport. 200 tons, 20 guns, 134 men, bound from Boston and Salem on a cruise. You can see here we say Massachusetts, and we just keep repeating these. We keep repeating the states because we know that some people want to search by state. And if you omit it and just say Salem or just Boston, then you might miss it on search. So we're trying hard to think about how people search and what they might want to search. Anyway, this one's brought into Ireland. It hasn't got a great deal in it. It's got the Printed Privateer Commission, which they have to keep, they have to show if they're captured. Otherwise, they might be assumed to be a pirate if they don't have some kind of official permission. It's got the printed instructions of Congress, and there are 2 sets of these instructions for how privateers ought to behave. So we put the date so you know which one you've got. And then a detailed introduction for Cathcart and the Essex from George Cabot of Beverley to Gardequy and Sons, and detailed instructions from Thomas Lee, the agent. So you get quite a lot of instructions to privateers from the owners and agents. Okay, and then the last one, the Hercules privateer. This was, again, 200 tons, 20 guns, 116 men. This one, again, was brought into Ireland, and it's got a different, here's its privateer commission, and it's in a different format. It's we get the ones which are just kind of looking like an ordinary typeface, and then we get these ones which are a typeface which is looking as though it's manuscript. I don't quite know why. Quite often you get the description of the commander and the mate on the back of these, which is really nice, and they say something like, wears his own hair, dark hair, light eyes, florid complexion, 5'6", something like that. Yeah. So, enough to check to see is it the right person, but not necessarily enough to really identify someone. And this one also has owner's instructions, which are pretty good, I think. It says, after you've made up your crew at Marblehead, Cape Ann and Portsmouth and tried for the St. Lawrence convoy, your principal object must be the homeward-bound West India fleet. That's the sugar fleets coming from Jamaica. This is where real money is. If you do not meet them, then cruise the coasts of England and Ireland. Any prizes laden with sugar or fish sent into Messrs. Joseph Gardequy and Sons at Bilbao, but others sent home directly. And then my almost last slide is about mail. This is not an Essex County ship, but it does include material in there which is relevant to people in Essex County. So we've got here a personal letter from Elizabeth Crequy of Spanish Town, who turned out to be in Virgin Gorda, which is a tiny little island in the Virgin Islands, to her son John Nutting of Salem. The family news, love from her father, it's his father, etc. I don't know what she was doing there, and I hope somebody will be able to tell us. We've also got two personal or business letters from somebody who's Thomas F. or T.F. in St. Croix to his brother Thomas Cushing in Boston by his cousin Captain Samuel Newman. And the letters here are not, although it's described as a business letter, it's also got long reflections on religion and society and the war. So it's very good kind of information for thinking about what people are actually contemplating when they experience the war. And then there's another letter from the same man to his sister, Mrs. Margaret Newman, Littleton, Massachusetts. And I've emboldened this bit with news of many letters lost by the ships being taken, and his reflections on the nonsensical parade of life. And when we heard earlier about the prisoner who wrote all these letters to his wife and he never got anything back, it's probably not because she didn't care, it's probably because she wrote multiple letters and they were all taken and maybe in the prize papers somewhere. We get so many things where people say, I haven't heard from you, are you dead? I've sent 10 letters, why haven't you replied? And people have replied, it's just that the papers were taken, the ship was captured, the papers were taken, they're not forwarded. So we're now on stage 3 of opening up the prize papers, and this is about online volunteering. We've described things to this level of detail, so SP1, the crew list and agreement, SP2 to SP18, owner's instructions for payments, etc., SP19 to SP47, ship's receipts, payments and private commissions by Jeremiah Pearson. That's not adequate for an online version where each document needs to be described. And this is an area where we really do need volunteers to work from the digital images of each document. After we've done the initial description, after the conservation, after the digitization, they're sent over to the University of Oldenburg in Germany, and they have their entire system there for creating much better descriptions, which have to be created before the whole thing can be published. So this is like a pre-publication exercise before they go up online, freely available to anybody across the world. And this is where we're going to put out a little plea for maybe you being interested in getting involved. Now, I know some of you will have met Ali, who's been attending the conference in person, who has been volunteering for quite a long time now, and I think will be happy to say a few words about her experience and if she finds it of interest. To write case studies for the website, and there is a possibility of becoming an institutional cooperation partner, which Lewin and Frank would be happy to talk to you about if anybody's interested. So that is the end of my presentation. I don't know if you want me to leave it up there or if you've managed to pick up one of these volunteer program leaflets which Ali brought.
So we are going to thank you so much. We're going to leave that slide up, and there is information, and you can talk to Ali, but I'm going to have Ali say a couple of words, so you'll be on silent, Amanda. Sorry, Dr. Bevan.
Thank you, Amanda, and it's just a real pleasure to be here and just be able to say a few words about working with the prize papers folks in both England and Germany. I work on French documents, so I read 18th century French letters and packages of letters that were on the ships. They're sort of like somebody's LinkedIn profile, except they were captured by enemies. So yesterday, I don't know what everyone else was doing, I was reading a letter by Louis XVI of France in which he instructs this dude in the Caribbean who's kind of running around, picking up people, putting them here, putting them there, moving them around, to put all of the documents related to signaling in a lead box if he's captured and chuck them in the ocean. And I've also read letters from Louis XIV, Louis XV, also Louis Charles de Bourbon. So there's a lot of Louis, and it's really hard to keep track of which Louis you're talking to. But it is the most fun. And I work with two other Americans. So there's a woman in Ohio and another person in Los Angeles. Yesterday I was translating with my friend Cindy that I met through this in Ohio. We work together all the time. We have a great time. I read recipes for medicines that you should not try at home, songs, really, really bad poetry, gossip letters from the court about, the activities of people. And my really favorite one is about a thing called an anguille, which would be an eel, except it's 112 feet long, it's 20 inches by 30 inches wide. It's probably made of wood. I think it's part of the bilge system for a ship because it costs approximately twice what a person who was like a retired person with a sort of pension from the king would make in a year. And this is just a piece of paper that's kind of an invoice for how much would it cost to get 2 of these. So if anybody understands what an eel might have been in an 18th century ship of the line,
They're probably in this room.
I would like to hear from you, because the only person I could find online who knew about that stuff didn't answer, but he's older than me, so I don't know. Anyway, it is the most fun I have had in a long time, and I recommend that everybody jump on and get with the prize papers, because that's where it's all happening.
Thank you. Thank you so much. For those who don't know this, that's a QR code. So if you take out your phone and open your camera, you can go right to the website there and get more information. Thank you so much, Dr. Bevan. That was an absolute pleasure. I'm going to say goodbye to you, and I will see you next time in the prize papers. I would just want to thank you all so much for sticking with us. I hope that you got out of this what you hope to get out of it. I am so thrilled to have been here with all of you. So thank you to all of our speakers. And thank you to our staff and volunteers. This is really an incredible effort to pull off.